Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone, the honorable judges and the distinguished participants. I'm Hanah Kania from Jenderal Soedirman University, and today I would like to deliver my speech under the topic Education Cost Cutting Amid the COVID-19 Pandemic to Guarantee the Rights of Education. First of all, I would like to thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us blessings and mercy so that I am able to stand here and deliver my speech to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember in the early 2020 when we did our activity normally? Well, I do. I was really excited to start on my work programs as an organizer of my English club. Everything was so normal that I thought 2020 was gonna bring up new hope. No one would ever thought that this happening virus we see in the media would literally be a real threat near us. Day by day, the COVID-19 virus got so worse that the WHO declared COVID-19 as pandemic. The outbreak is not only threatening our health, but it is also collapsing everything from education, social, economy, and so many other sectors. For the first 4 months of the outbreak in Indonesia, everyone went to a stage where we panicked, we stayed at home, and basically our daily activities such as jobs went to a freeze. At this time, there was a gap between the upper and the lower class of the society. The upper class were demanding everyone to just stay at home, while the lower and middle class of the society insisted to keep on going with their life, especially their jobs. Because unlike the upper class, they cannot depend on their savings. They have to keep working. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give my opinion in the education sectors. Since the outbreak, education system in Indonesia has to adjust to the condition to make sure they keep giving the best quality to the students. But we must admit that our curriculum is far from ready for online learning. To handle this situation, the Ministry of Education has released a policy about online learning guidance or Panduan Pembelajaran Jarak Jauh. This guidance were comprehensively explained in their website. But the truth is, the implementation of this guidance itself is far from our expectation. And the question is, ladies and gentlemen, will this guidance could afford to actually fulfill the right of education? Although the government has also granted some education cost cutting and also provided us with internet data for a low price, it still couldn't make education quality in Indonesia any better. That's why we as a students or someone who has the rights, we must demand more. We cannot be simply satisfied just because there's cost cutting. When we started to demand more, then they'll try to improve themselves, and by that, they'll start to follow the guidance given by the ministry. And I really hope that the teachers and the school doesn't only change their methods or platform, but also their mindset on students and their own outputs towards the students. What I want to highlight in this matter is that does cutting the cost of education guarantee the rights of education? Ladies and gentlemen, the rights of education itself were clearly mentioned in the Article 31st of our National Constitution 1945, which mentions that every citizen has the rights to receive education. Then, it is also mentioned in the Article 11 of our National Constitution about national education system that mention that the government has to ensure that they granted service, facility, and also make sure that every citizen receive an excellent education. Talking about excellent education, now you're absolutely wondering what excellent education truly means, right? Does excellent education will be achieved just by giving students tons and stacks of homework? The answer is straight up no. There are 2 points regarding the rights of education. First, the rights to receive cost cutting, and the rights to get an excellent education. These points have to be completely fulfilled in order to get excellent education as the part of the educational right itself. A cost cutting only half guarantee the rights of education. And it is quite funny because who wants our rights to be just half fulfilled, right? When we are obliged to fully fulfill our obligation as a citizen. So here's the thing. It's a great gesture for the Ministry of Education to release a policy about a guidance. But the truth that I see myself around me is yet effective. Taking sample from my own research, 8 out of 10 parents that I asked told me that the school where their children study at, especially kindergarten to elementary, haven't even implemented any of this guidance. This is why online learning guidance couldn't guarantee the quality. Moreover, there are no any kind of supervising action towards this guidance itself. Now, how could our rights of education, especially the rights of excellent education, is being guaranteed while the school doesn't even implement any of this guidance? Instead, the school seems like they are burdening the parents and not even care about the output of the so-called knowledge that they are giving. They don't even care about how or who did the homework. They just cared about giving students tasks and tons of homework on a daily basis. Did they do as the guidance told them to? Like to gather information about how prepared is the parents to accompany their children to perform long distance learning, like their access to technology, their work pattern, or did they try to make an agreement with the parents about the execution of the homework and the right time for both sides to turn in the homework? No, ladies and gentlemen, these few points mentioned in the guidance were not being implemented. They did implement a few things from the guidance, though. Unfortunately and sadly, they implement everything the guidance told them not to do so, like to avoid giving tasks without understanding the parents' condition and circumstances, and like to avoid pushing on the deadline of the time of the task with the same speed and time criteria for all students. For this matter, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen a real life proof on how this is really performed by the school. It is when one of the parents that I asked told me that she has to actually sacrifice going to work because she has to help her kids work on the homework given by the teacher. This proved that first, the school and the teacher doesn't consider the parent's condition, like her work hours. Second, the school are pushing on the deadline of time to collect the homework. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, when we found an unfair thing, then let's demand more from them. Let's demand them to actually follow the guidance. Criticize them. Don't do everything as they told us to. Let's just simply ask questions on why they give such a one-sided decision. Now, we all know that the education department is not doing supervision maximally, right? Then, as the one who has the rights, we must act on it. And in the end, let's just hope that they'll give their best effort to be better, to actually perform an excellent education. After all I have explained earlier, now we know that to guarantee the rights of education, cutting the cost is just never gonna be enough. It's just half guarantee the rights of education, and it's not fair for us who have those rights. To guarantee our own rights, it takes both sides to make it happen. Since we know that we cannot simply depend on the government to fix it, then, as the one who is worthy of the rights, we must demand our rights to be fulfilled, so that the government, who has the obligation to fulfill them, know that they need to do more to actually guarantee the rights of education. Ladies and gentlemen, when we start to ask questions more, demand more, act on it more, and not getting too complacent with everything we have in our life. And by that, even in this COVID-19 pandemic, we'll grow into a better version of ourselves. That's all I can deliver. Thank you so much for your attention. And if there are any mistakes, I do really apologize.